almost 10% of all auto loans right now are over 30 days delinquent.
Delinquency rates for credit cards and auto loans are at their highest levels in more than a decade.
So Ally Financial just released some very dire news for the car market.
The stock getting absolutely hammered on this news. In fact, it's looking like one of those dollar store stocks.
And after they released this, their stock price crashed 17%.
You can see it's down here. A couple of days ago, it was significantly higher.
It's so bad right now that banks have to extend the loans out to 84 months so people can actually afford a monthly payment. Repo! And at the end of this video, I'll actually show you what a dealer pays for one of these repos. So Ally just reported that auto delinquencies right now are a big time problem.
You can see financials getting hammered more than all the others. Ally stock drops 15%. It's down more than that right now.
The reason why we need to pay attention to this is because Ally Financial deals with a lot of subprime auto loans.
Some of the things he said that scared the heck out of the markets. Our credit challenges have intensified.
The way that Ally goes is the way of the car market, because how do people buy cars right now? It's through auto loans. They're not paying cash for cars. They're going to get loans for these cars. So if Ally is seeing big time problems, if they're seeing spiking in these auto loan delinquencies, if they're starting to tighten their credit, if they're having to put money back just to cover themselves because of all these repos that are going through the market, this is something that the whole car market needs to be aware of, because things are getting worse right now in the car market for the consumer. Inflation's up.
We clearly are dealing with a cohort of borrowers who have been struggling with the cost of living, and now we're struggling with an employment picture that has worsened.
It's costing more for people to actually live every single day. Things have to get cut. And what Ally is saying right now, auto loans, that's what's getting cut. So here we go. I'm gonna show you what an actual repo looks like here on this lot. So we got a few cars around here. These are all repos, but this one is a CRV. It's a 2007. And it looks like, here we go. This is the mileage on it. So somebody drove the crap out of this thing and then stopped paying for it. It's got 299,000 miles. But let me show you what's typical on repos. You look at this right here. So any kind of cosmetic damage, we see that quite often in repos, because when people decide, okay, we're not going to pay for this thing anymore, they know they're not keeping it. So why even bother to fix anything cosmetic about this car? And it's going to really go the same route of anything mechanical, because at the end of the day, these consumers, they have money to do one thing. They can either make the payment or they can fix the car, but they can't do both. So stuff like this over here, the side fender where it's trashed, they're not going to spend money to do that. And I'm going to show you the inside of it. There you go. All this cosmetic stuff. There's no reason for them to fix this when they know the car's going back. Cracks in the seats, it's dirty. Then over here you got just more nastiness that's occurring in these cars, and this is just typical of what you're going to see in these cars that are repossessed and brought to these auctions. So what Ally said during this was that their auto loan delinquencies and their charge-offs were actually higher than what they expected, and here's the problem with that.
Late payments on auto loans in July and August rose by 20 basis points more than expected.
Is that they had expected a lot. So it's even coming in, these numbers are even coming in a lot worse than what Ally Financial had actually prepared for. And they prepared for some pretty dire situation. So it's even worse than what they expected. All right, more repo goodness right here. Check out the inside of this car. Absolutely filthy. Floors coming up. I don't even want to touch anything that's in there. Look, we just got stains, we got gunk, we got absolute garbage. And Citigroup, who holds a major credit card, well, they just saw a massive switch in consumer spending. So what has been happening is that people were using their credit cards to buy things that maybe they didn't need. Let's think about DoorDash, maybe electronics that they didn't need. But now Citigroup is saying that they're seeing a shift from that to the bare necessities. People are now spending money on groceries.
To gasoline, to the things that we absolutely must cover. That means that $10.5 billion increase in credit card charges that we saw inside that data yesterday, a lot of it's going to end up in delinquency going forward.
They don't have any available money in their banking account, so what are they doing? They're tapping their credit cards. And Citigroup is saying that this is going to lead to a lot of losses. This is something that the stock market did not want to hear, but it's something something that's happening in our economy right now. We've already seen it from subprime consumers here in the used car space when I'm talking about these buy here, pay here dealers, when I'm going to these auctions and seeing that repos are stacking up from these subprime lenders. That's the exact same thing that Citigroup's seeing right now. Their bills, they're going to stop paying them because they don't have any money left. And as they keep spending on their credit cards, well, their credit limits are going to get tapped. So here's a big problem, is that we're seeing that 10% of auto loans that are out there right now are 30+ days delinquent. This is a massive number of people are out there riding on the roads right now that are delinquent on their auto loans. So we're seeing the inverse of that happen in the savings accounts, right? We're at record low savings rates for consumers right now. So this is just an absolute setup for disaster. People are not paying their car loans, and even if they wanted to, there's not any money in their accounts to make themselves current. So we have this repo apocalypse, this negative equity crisis, all of these things happening at the exact same time. And it's so bad right now, and it's going to get worse here in the car market. All right, faded hood paint, just another example. We got whole panels missing on this door. Just another example of problems with repos. Seats that are bad, things that I don't want to touch, stains that I don't know how that even happens. More stains in the back. This is a repo right here. Gross. So Ally said that their consumer was really struggling, their borrower was really struggling. And what we're seeing in the market right now is that savings rates are going down and credit delinquencies are going up. So what does that mean? That means that people are trying to stay up with this lifestyle. They're trying to afford just daily life, and they're having to put it on their credit cards. Their savings rates have already been extinguished. Now what they're leaning to is this credit cards. They're defaulting on those, and they have no more available credit. And we're seeing that something has to get cut. And what Ally is showing that's getting cut is their auto loan payments. There's so many people right now that are delinquent on their auto loans, and we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg right now. Repos are coming through the system. All right, here's an old Honda Odyssey repo, high mileage, transmission's probably busted. Nothing good about this thing. I would be surprised if it brought more than like $400. All right, it's at $200 right now. 2.5. We're breaking out the halves. $250 where we're at. Up to $300 now. It's rolling out. We're up to $400, I think. No, we got $450 is what it brought, and they sold it. Of course they sold it. Of course they sold it. So the average used car interest rate right now is right at 14%. And you know what? That's just what's reported. So these buy here, pay here dealers, you know, these dealers that are on the side of the highway, they have $9.95 down. Those dealers are getting the maximum amount that their state allows. So the subprime of the subprime borrowers right now, they're not touching that 14%. No, their interest rates are like 25 to 30% that they're paying on these vehicles that they're buying from these buy here, pay here dealers. It's just an endless cycle of wealth destruction for a lot of these consumers. So right now there's a report out that says 73% of consumers are holding off on a new vehicle purchase because prices are just too high. So what does that lead to? Well, consumers are pushed into vehicles that they can't afford because they're just not out there to be able to buy. There's literally one car right now across the whole U.S., a brand new car that you can buy for under $20,000. Just one. That is absolutely ridiculous. This is a big problem, and it's getting worse. As consumers are forced to buy higher priced vehicles, their monthly payments have to go up. And as we know, everything else costs more right now. Inflation is killing the consumer, and as inflation kills the consumer, they have to stop paying for these vehicles. And to make situations even worse, these financial institutions are still still loaning 125% of the value of all the cars that are being sold right now. This is the same junk that got us into this problem. Now it's not as bad as it was 2-3 years ago, where they were loaning 140% of the value of these cars. But even so, if they want this to be fixed, if Ally wants this problem not to become a massive crisis for them and they lose tons and tons of money, they have to stop doing these bad lending practices. And consumers have to stop signing up for this, but we know that's not going to be the case. If there's easy money to get out there, guess what? These banks, they're going to try to get it. And these consumers, they're going to continue to spend as long as they're able to. That's another problem with this market. Banks are tightening up. They have to set back these provisions. They have to stop lending all of these consumers that are not able to afford these payments, this money, and that's going to tighten up the market, both on the bank side, both on the consumer side, and it's going to hit the dealers, because the dealers are not going to be able to sell if the banks can't loan. And 48% of consumers have said they wanted to pay $35,000 or less for a vehicle. We just went to a Ford lot, and you know what? The cheapest thing was on that whole lot was a $40,000 vehicle. So we're seeing that these automakers, they're not going to what consumers actually want. They're going to profit centers. They're going to where they make the most money and not what consumers can actually afford. These numbers tell you 1 out of every 2 people that are going to go shop for a new vehicle, they want one that's under $35,000. And if you go to Ford, you can't find it. So a big problem that we see with just all this affordability crisis that we're dealing with is that for people to actually be able to get into loans that they can make so that banks can approve them for these loans, they're having to extend them out. We have now, it's a commonplace to see car loans, new car loans, that extend out to 84 months. That's absolutely insane. And a lot of these cars, they're probably not going to last that long as far as transmissions, motors, a lot of the quality that's a big concern with the cars that are being produced today. Maybe they're not going to hold up, and if they don't, these consumers are not going to be able to afford to fix a major repair on these cars, a motor, a transmission. They're not going to be able to do that and make their payments on the cars. So this is just the 84 months, the extension is just a band-aid to put on this. It's going to cause a much bigger problem 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road than what we're even dealing with today if this continues. And the lending space is bad right now, and it's getting worse. And we see this from companies like Volkswagen, automakers that are actually getting out of the lending space. They're no longer going to be doing it. They're going to let Wells Fargo take over their lending. And this is a big problem, because this has been a major profit center for a lot of these automakers. And if you have Volkswagen stepping up and saying, you know what, it's bad, I don't want to deal with this anymore, Wells Fargo, you can have it. You can have it all. And this is just screaming to the car market right now that, okay, these loans, we know that they're going bad. We're seeing that they're going bad. I don't want to be in that space, and a lot of other companies are going to follow suit. All right, here's a repo, and it's a truck. This is actually a rare thing. Usually it's sedans, small SUVs. It's a 2007. It's got 197,000 miles. All right, to $3,700 every time he yelps. We got a bid up to $38, $39, up to $4,100 now. Down to $4,200 they sold it. $4,200 they sold it. So right now, how do you avoid this repo crisis? How do you avoid getting your car snatched up because you can't afford the bills? Well, how about buying something that you can actually afford? How about paying cash for a car, owning your car? You don't want to finance something that's going down in value. That's not the way to build wealth. And I know what you're saying. Well, Brandon, there are no cheap cars out there. I can't find a car for $3,000, for $3,500. You know what? I think you probably can. And I can promise you, I'm not the only dealer that sells cars for under $5,000. And it's not going to matter where you are in the country. You're going to be able to find something. And you know what? Honestly, I would rather you not even buy from a dealer. Don't buy a car from me. I buy these cars from auction. I don't know where they come from. I don't know the history on these cars. You can save yourself some money. You can get a better car if you go buy a car from an individual. That would be my recommendation. But my biggest tip on how to avoid this and how to not get yourself in any kind of trouble is you go buy something that you can afford. But if you're buying any used car, I don't care if you're buying it from me, I don't care if you're buying it from your mama, I don't care if you're buying it from a friend that you've known your whole life, make sure you go get that car checked out by a mechanic before you buy it. With all used cars, you can buy a paperwork really quickly, and going and getting checked out by your mechanic is your first line of defense to be able to buy the best car at the best price and to be able to protect yourself the most.